More changes are on the way for the regulation of Singapore's property market. Buyers and sellers of resale HDB flats will now have a cooling-off period before completing transactions. Meantime, the Law Ministry is also proposing changes to foreign ownership of landed residential property to enhance its penalty framework.
From next month, buyers and sellers of resale HDB flats will have more time to think about their decision, 7 days to be exact. Only then can sellers grant the option to purchase to buyers. The HDB says this is to ensure both parties are aware of key resale and financial policies before committing to a transaction. Now, this is the latest in a recent slate of measures introduced less than 2 months ago to cool the property market. Now, the National Development Minister told Parliament that it's too early to assess the full impact, but said there's a greater stability in the market.
The take-up of private residential properties has decreased in September this year as compared to August, and the recent level of sub-sales has also been relatively low. In the public housing market, the number of resale flat transactions in September has decreased by 25% compared to August.
And introduced in Parliament, a Law Ministry proposal to amend the Residential Property Act, which regulates foreign ownership of restricted property. These include new requirements for ex-citizens and ex-PRs who own landed residential property in Singapore. They must dispose of this property within 2 years or face a $20,000 fine and/or a 3-year jail term. Foreign beneficiaries of landed properties must also dispose them within 5 years instead of the earlier 10-year time frame. And currently, foreigners who purchase landed properties are not allowed to rent them out. Under new rules, those caught doing so will face a penalty of $10,000 or up to 3 times the rental income collected.
The proportion of landed residential properties purchased by PRs and foreigners has also been relatively low, accounting for less than 6% of all landed housing transactions in the past 2 years.
The bill should be passed at the next sitting of Parliament.
Well, the proposed new changes to the Singapore property market are not expected to weigh down on property prices. Analysts say the measures are timely and support greater prudence in property transactions.
Over 80% of Singapore's population resides in Housing Development Board or HDB accommodation. And because of that, experts say proposed amendments to the Residential Property Act will have little impact on the overall property market. The Residential Property Act regulates foreign ownership of restricted property.
This is actually not a cooling measure. This is more to bring some of the rules up in line with modern practices and also to keep them more current and effective. The landed property segment, which I think there are roughly about 70,000 landed properties, only 3%, that's about 2,000 landed properties are owned by foreigners. I believe most of these foreigners have plans to stay and work in Singapore for a long period of time.
In addition, HDB has announced a 7-day cooling period for buyers and sellers before completing transactions.
I don't think this measure in any way will further bring down as far as the effect on the prices, simply because I see this as just another step of prudence measures.
Going forward, some experts say that the cooling measures implemented by the government a month and a half ago will still have a greater impact on the property market. And some are forecasting that mass market property prices could come down by as much as 8 to 10% in the next 3 to 6 months. The government introduced the recent set of property measures to preempt a speculative bubble from forming. Some experts note that the volume of property transaction in the private and public sector has gone down by 30% since the measures were implemented.
It has